Since the dawn of civilization, militaries, governments, and powerful dictators have struggled to gain and maintain domination over their enemies and their subjects alike. From mind-altering drugs to brain-bending hypnosis, countless techniques have been developed to control men's minds.
In 1953, one of the CIA's own scientists was a subject of an LSD mind control experiment. He ended up committing suicide by jumping out of a 10-story building.
Could tactics like these be used against you and your loved ones? Is science being subverted to create new and more frightening methods to control your behavior? When the secrets of mind control are unsealed. What if the history you were taught in school was all a lie? Is our government controlled by a secret society? Welcome to the world of conspiracy, where cover-ups, secrets, and hidden agendas all trace back to a single source. We're about to unseal the secret files the government doesn't want you to know about. This is Unsealed, Conspiracy Files. June 5th, 1968, Los Angeles, California. 5 years after the brutal public assassination of President John F. Kennedy, his brother, Robert, is running for president.
My thanks to all of you, and now on to Chicago, and let's win there. There's a doctor in the house. I want to see him right here.
After a campaign speech at the Ambassador Hotel, he is shot at close range by a man named Sirhan Sirhan. In the days following Robert Kennedy's murder, the killer claims he had no memory of the events.
No, I don't remember much what happened after that.
You don't remember much?
I don't remember.
So Sirhan Sirhan says he cannot remember it. Was Sirhan Sirhan drugged? Was he under deep hypnosis? Was he programmed?
Do you remember anything?
Other than the choking and the commotion, I don't remember that.
Even after a deep state of hypnotic regression, Sirhan Sirhan didn't remember anything of the assassination. It was like something was blocking his memory somehow.
What if a rogue agency or enemy government could create their own puppet, a leader, or an assassin that is only loyal to the commands implanted in his mind that he will obey years or even decades later? Some theorize Sirhan Sirhan's actions were the result of just such a program.
A so-called Manchurian candidate would be someone so programmed, so brainwashed that they will do things often without even being conscious they are doing them, can be triggered or controlled to be sent on a mission and then have some kind of amnesia about it.
But is this just fantasy? Witnesses claim the chief of the CIA's Psychological Warfare Division, George Ioannidis, was present that night at the Ambassador Hotel.
Some conspiracy theorists even believe that the CIA could have even been controlling him.
The drive to achieve domination over the human mind dates back to the ancient Egyptians and what they called the Book of the Dead.
It talks about the use of drugs and potions and magic spells in combination to what we would believe to be a hypnotic-like state or hypnosis to control somebody's mind.
4,000 years later, a medieval tome called the Malleus Maleficarum, or Hammer of the Witches, served as the instruction manual for the Inquisition.
Literally thousands of people were burned at the stake with the use of this book. It was used to get false confessions about being a witch, which ultimately led to their death.
The influence of the ancient text is still felt hundreds of years later in the work of an 18th century German named Franz Mesmer.
Mesmer is a brilliant scientist, a physician, interested in healing, develops a notion he calls animal magnetism, which is a theory of body energy that he thinks he can manipulate and control for healing purposes.
1776, the palace of King Louis XIV. Mesmer convinces members of the court they will experience convulsions of pleasure if they touch a barrel full of common iron filings. When many at the court faint or collapse in fits, Mesmer becomes the first to prove the existence of the power of suggestion.
The king and his advisors realized how dangerous Mesmer and his ideas really could be, so they pretty much sent him packing. But to date, his name is infamous.
Unsealed case file, Nazi mind control. The 1940s, a world at war. Adolf Hitler and the Nazis build on Mesmer's work in their efforts to create a master race and achieve global domination. Mind-altering drugs, administered to unwilling prisoners at secret locations, test the limits of human endurance.
The Nazis wanted to have the perfect warrior. They also wanted to be able to control their enemies.
With the combination of hypnosis and hallucinogens like mescaline and LSD, the Nazis seek to completely override the free will of their own soldiers.
In the research done by the Nazis, they were using massive doses. To overdose on mescaline is a trip to hell. It is convulsions while being in an altered state. It is a terror ride.
Fortunately, Hitler was defeated before he had a chance to assemble his army of brainwashed murderers. But after the war, did America take over where the Nazis left off? Unsealed. Conspiracy Files. Welcome back to the world of conspiracy. This is Unsealed. Conspiracy Files. During the Nuremberg trials after World War II, a decade of Nazi mind control experiments come to light. America soon faced her first Cold War battle with the Russians over who got the Nazi scientists. Unsealed case file. Operation Paperclip.
Operation Paperclip was a program that was designed to bring over Nazi scientists to share their intelligence with the United States. In exchange for full immunity and wiping their slate clean, their new resumes were paperclipped to their photo and they were sent off to work for different military intelligence offices.
In the years immediately following the war, hundreds of former Nazis were granted U.S. citizenship in exchange for their expertise.
Why did we want this? Because we wanted the control the Nazis were trying to develop. This is scary. We don't think of ourselves as that kind of government, but all governments want control, particularly when under threat.
As early as 1947, the Navy is building on the Germans' mind control research. Their objective: complete control over the human psyche. The program was codenamed Project Chatter.
Project Chatter was a United States Navy operation that aimed to really develop a truth serum, a truth drug, that we could use on captured intelligence officers.
The idea is that perhaps in large doses, they can be given to someone who has a secret. Truth serum doesn't work very well. False confessions, misinformation, jumble, confusion, you get all sorts of things.
While Project Chatter is shut down 2 years later, a much more insidious program soon takes its place. Unsealed case file. MK Ultra. In 1953, CIA Director Allen Dulles declares that a new era in psychological warfare has dawned. He refers to the fight as a battle for men's minds. Dulles' lead weapon in this skirmish, Project MK Ultra.
MK Ultra was the CIA's attempt to experiment in mind control.
MK Ultra includes an astonishing 149 different experiments testing the limits of the human mind.
Somebody was given LSD for 174 days or something like that in a row. They just want to see what happened.
Another MK Ultra experiment utilized 2 IVs, one in the right arm and one in the left. In the right arm, they would inject barbiturates. In the left, they would inject amphetamines just because they wanted to see the effects.
Another subject An Army bioweapons expert named Frank Olson suffers a nervous breakdown after being slipped a megadose of LSD in a cocktail and ends up either falling or jumping from a 10-story building.
The United States government never admitted any liability, nor could they on grounds of national security. They settled with Frank Olson's wife for a large sum of money. And the terms of the settlement were not disclosed.
By the 1970s, rumors of the existence of MK Ultra could no longer be squelched, despite the government's best efforts.
The CIA tried to erase all this. They shredded most of the documents.
About 20,000 pages survived because they were mislabeled as financial information in the CIA archives. They were released in the 1970s during a congressional hearing, which is finally when all the MK Ultra information came to light.
Witnesses who claimed to be victims of the CIA's mind control experiments revealed the techniques the agency used on them.
And then the drug began to take hold very rapidly because it was an IV injection, and things became very furry and very frightening.
Other methods included electric shock, hallucinogens, sensory deprivation, and hypnosis. The stated goal of MK Ultra was to enhance information retrieval from captured enemy agents. The unwitting victims of their experiments included college students, servicemen, prisoners, and even the wife of a Canadian member of Parliament.
Nobody explained it to me. Nobody ever asked me if I was willing to do it or anything.
According to the government, MK Ultra was officially ended in the 1970s. But what if its effects are still yet to be felt?
We don't know how many people are still walking around. How many people are literally walking time bombs waiting for the psychic trigger that's going to set them loose.
Coming up, new technology makes previous attempts at mind control look like child's play. And it's already in your own backyard.
It just happens that these radio waves are very similar to the frequency of brain waves, which is raising a lot of suspicions.
Unsealed. Conspiracy Files. Welcome back to the world of conspiracy. This is Unsealed. Conspiracy Files. Drugs, hypnosis, behavioral modification, all have been used to control the human brain. But for some scientists, those methods are just a little too subtle.
In the 1960s, medical research aimed to control an animal's mind with the use of an electronic electrode in the brain to see if they could alter its movement, alter its behavior. It actually turns out that they were able to do it.
The implanted electrodes stopped a charging bull dead in its tracks.
And that was technology decades ago. Imagine what they have today.
Remote-controlled lab rats, brain monitoring helmets, 21st century technologies that directly interact with our minds truly strain the imagination. And we're seeing the newest methods deployed in our own neighborhoods, disguised as tools for our safety.
By order of the City of Pittsburgh Chief Police, I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly.
Said to be used only for crowd control, long-range acoustic devices, or LRADs, might play a crucial role in bringing mind-controlled technology to our doorsteps.
The police have something called LRAD, long-range acoustic devices. They emit a high-pitch frequency that actually is very physically unpleasant, and crowds will disperse.
The Army's been experimenting with non-lethal weapons. One of those non-lethal weapons is using sound to create a whole bunch of physiological responses. What effect might that have on the human body? Would it cause tumors? Would it cause hemorrhaging? What's not been determined? is what the long-term effects of these things are.
Now, this is a positive use, we hope, in the right hands, but we are aware as soon as these things exist that they can be employed in other ways.
And if these beams can project 150 decibels of mind-melting sound into your head, what else can they plant in your brain? And what if they could broadcast it around the globe?
It's chilling to think what they can get away with using today's technology, and we would never even know.
Throughout the world, cell phone towers emit levels of power that far surpass the requirements of cell phones. But solitary cell phone towers are no match for another controversial array. Unsealed case file. HAARP. Established in 1993, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, or HAARP, is located in Kokona, Alaska. According to the government, HAARP is merely an unclassified weather research center. To more skeptical minds, it's one of the biggest secrets in U.S. military history. Many claim the installation is capable of altering our thoughts and actions. Could HAARP be one of the government's undisclosed weapons in the war for mind control?
HAARP is theoretically bouncing waves through the ionosphere and then back down to Earth. The sound waves that are being transmitted are the same frequency levels as waves in the human brain. Perhaps HAARP is being used to control human brains on a mass level to control entire populations through mind control.
Some experts believe the HAARP installation is to blame for several unexplained phenomena. From mass bird deaths, to beached whales, to extreme weather around the globe. Coming up, some mind control threats are literally global in size. But the biggest threat of all just might be the tiniest. You could be at risk as the next victim of an implant no bigger than a grain of rice.
Today, you've got microchips that can operate on a microscopic level. They control our mind, alter our thoughts, or ultimately just kill the host.
The shocking truth. Next. Unsealed. Conspiracy Files. Welcome back to the world of conspiracy. This is Unsealed. Conspiracy Files. The time to act is now. There are 3 simple steps you can take to unseal the truth.
Follow on Twitter.
Follow the Unsealed Twitter feed to receive breaking news of the latest conspiracies as they develop.
Tell your story.
What did you see that you shouldn't have?
The government's known about it all along. Why has nobody told us?
Upload stories and pictures to our interactive map.
Join the movement.
Get the Unsealed bracelet and the unique code hidden underneath to access exclusive content. Stop living in the dark.
It is definitely coming this way.
Get involved in the fight to unseal the truth. Now. Around the globe, shadowy agencies could be controlling your thoughts through high-tech trickery. RFID technology was originally created to track farm animals and pets. A chip in the animal's ear transmits his identity to a reader. Researchers have been experimenting with human RFID chips for decades. And it's only a tiny leap to imagine the day when those implants provide information and directions to their hosts, whether they like it or not.
We know the technology is there. What we don't know is what secret agencies might be doing with it.
If the idea of having your mind controlled by a tiny microchip sounds far-fetched, maybe that's what they want you to think. Unsealed. Conspiracy Files.